Hello, this is Al Stanley, and today on Controversial Topics, we're going to talk about electric cars, and a little bit about hybrid cars. Electric cars is a very controversial subject because they kind of always seem like they're out of our grasp. Like they're out there, they're kind of available, they're advertised, but you never really could get a handle on them. What am I talking about? Well, if you YouTube or Google search the GM EV1, General Motors Electric Vehicle 1, GM EV1, that car was available in 1996. It was available for lease, and it was an electric car. You could plug it in your garage at night and charge it overnight. Next day you could drive 70 miles. Not too many miles, just 70, but still more than the average person drives per day, which is about 30 or so. So that's fairly reasonable. And this GM EV1 was for lease for about $400. And several celebrities had them, including Tom Hanks, and he was on the Tonight Show with Jay Leno. Tom Hanks and Jay Leno was making fun of him, saying, "Hey, you driving an electric car now, huh?" And Tom says back to Jay, "Well, it's actually pretty quick, and you can get a speeding ticket in it." And it was pretty quick. It was a decent car. If you remember, it kind of looked like a Saturn because GM had Saturn do the body design for that car. And when the people leased them, after the leases were expired a year later and needed to be renewed, General Motors would not allow them to renew their leases. What they did instead is send out tow trucks to tow each car out of there, to tow all the cars away. And you may find a picture on Google where they're all crushed in the desert somewhere, I think Arizona, somewhere in the southwest. And basically someone didn't want that car out there. Why did they want that car out there? You can have a look at a movie called Who Killed the Electric Car, and it'll talk more in depth about it. Electric cars aren't really new technology. They've been around since the beginning of the automobile. And there were several electric cars made back then. And the reason why is because the gasoline engine cars were so loud that they scared the horses away. They were frightening the horses because they had horse and buggies back then. So electric cars were pretty nice out there because they were so quiet and wouldn't scare the horses. So they were around since the beginning. However, someone got rid of those cars too for some reason. Maybe it was the oil industry, they didn't want it around or whatever, but I'm familiar more with what happened in around 96. If you remember 96, or if you research, fuel was about $1.27 a gallon, I remember those days. And today, thank God, just reached over $4 a gallon where I live, so that's, that was, I guess, not so good for our pocketbooks, but somebody else's pocketbook, it is. So these electric cars, when the owners were interviewed, or the people that leased these cars, when they were interviewed and to tell us a little bit about the car, they mentioned that when they go to the service to the dealership, they only get the hood open, top off the windshield fluid, rotate the 4 tires, and done. No more service needed. The car didn't have a muffler that could brake, a clutch that could brake, a water pump that could brake,
a starter that could break, an air intake, a gasket that could leak. You know, it didn't have any of that stuff. It only had an electric motor built into the rear axle, which was the only moving part of the drivetrain. And then it had an electronic amplifier module that controlled the motor with the electronic pulses and variable power. So the car did not require much maintenance at all. And if you notice, the dealerships, the way they are nowadays, is half the dealership is the sales area and the other half is the service area. So that's kind of a scam that I'm suspicious about, where car companies make cars, well, not purposely so they would break down, but they just don't make them too good of quality for them to last really good amount of time. So you'd have to bring it into service and get that worked on constantly, and for them to keep on making money, and maybe make some cars that are more or less disposable, so you could get rid of cars easier and buy new ones faster. Cars that build sludge. But I'm not going to go into that too much. Just talk about the electric car. Now we have the Chevy Volt coming out, or is supposedly out. However, I haven't seen one yet. And the radio advertising about the Chevy Volt, just like in '96, they had the same radio ads about the GM EV1, and not too many people could have them, and they weren't even for sale. They were just for lease, and then they wouldn't let them lease them after a while. So were they just pulling our finger, just saying, yeah, here's a little electric car, but we're really not going to give it to you. There's a flaw in it or something. And they were claiming that the world wasn't ready for it because maybe they weren't ready for electric cars. That's what GM said about the EV1 in '96. However, if you look at their advertising campaign, they spent a considerable amount of money on the advertising of the GM EV1, and still they're saying people aren't really interested in this car yet. Plenty of people were, and most of the people that were leasing it were ready to renew their leases. And if you notice their advertising, they don't have the typical woman in bikini advertisings, happy smiling with a car and that type of thing. How conventional advertising is. They had some kind of robot scarecrow stuff. It kind of looked like they want to spread a message of scaring us away from this car. And in the ad they were saying, are we ready for this? And what kind of message were they trying to say in their advertising about the GM EV1? So now we're getting similar advertisings about the Chevy Volt. But I may be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I hope the Chevy Volt will be something. But, and I will be surprised if it's a good car that'll be here to stay, that would be very good reliability. I hope that would happen, but I doubt it strongly. So we'll see. Maybe this video will be out for a few years that I'm recording right here today, and we will find out in a few short years. So that's a little bit about what I had to say about electric cars. So have a look at this topic, who killed the electric car. YouTube search that and Google, you'll find out some information. And comment below whether you think I'm kind of crazy for saying the things I said, or whether you agree, disagree, what you think about electric cars. So thank you for watching. Godspeed.